Hello everyone, it's Mr. Barden here. Today I'm going to be talking to you just how to wrap these audio cables. I say these audio cables, you can do this with really any kind of audio cable, but I'm specifically talking about the XLR cables that you tend to find for microphones, speakers, things of that nature. When wrapped properly, these cables will have a very nice long life of pretty decent service to you. So to do this, there's a very specific way that we have to go about wrapping the cable. So before I hop into exactly what that is, I'm going to talk just a little bit about why you would want to do this outside of just preserving the life of your microphone cables. So basically, the reason as to why you would want to do this and why it would help with that is to keep the cables from bunching up and being, crimped and broken. If you look at the heads of the cables, the ends where you're plugging them into something else, maybe a microphone or your audio interface or some other piece of equipment, you'll notice that there are, on these at least, 3 little pins, or 3 holes if you're holding the other end like I am right this second. These pins are connected to a single wire each that runs the entire length of the cable, and inside of the cable they're all shielded and wrapped up and put together into one cohesive unit. But if you're improperly twisting and wrapping them up, that covering can become undone, and that can lead to problems. It can lead to the wires getting crimped and bent or breaking. They could touch each other and get shorted out, which could lead to a whole other array of problems, and it's generally just not a good time. So what I'm going to show you today is just how to wrap these up in order to keep all of that from happening, keep your cables working for years and years and years, and just make them nice and easy to manage. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with one end of the cable in one hand. It doesn't matter which hand you use or which end of the cable you have. You also want to make sure that the cable is free of any kinks or tangles, which is why I kind of threw this out a second ago, and now I'm just kind of running through it, and stuff like this you want to avoid. So I'm just going to go through the cable and make sure that it's free of tangles to begin with. If it was properly wrapped not too long ago, this usually isn't a problem, but maybe someone didn't quite know how to wrap it, didn't check, or sometimes if they just sit for a while, depending on the way you're storing them, they could become tangled up. Still, it's very possible. I'm not going to talk about storing cables today, just wrapping them. So, like I said, I'll just hold it up here so you can see those 3 little pins that I mentioned earlier, but you're going to start with one end of the cable in one hand, and you're going to pull out. I usually like to do about an arm's length or so, and you're going to, you'll notice as you're doing this, you may feel the cable want to turn one way or the other. Never fight the cable. Let the cable do what it wants to do, and as you're doing this enough times, eventually the cable will just kind of want to follow this pattern as it kind of gets that memory. So we're going to be alternating between turning the cable over and under as we form a coil. So looking at it from this direction, I'm holding one end here and I'm bringing this up. I notice the cable wants to turn under, so I'm going to turn it under and form a loop. I usually like mine about maybe a foot in diameter or so. But just to illustrate what I did, I'm going to come up to the camera and hold it up here, is I have taken this and brought it up and twisted it so that way the lead that is going to the rest of the cable is now going underneath the previous one. Okay? So again, we went under this first time. Your cable may want to go over. That's okay. But then next time, as we come up for the next loop, we're gonna turn it so that it goes over the previous cable, the opposite of before. And just to really illustrate this, I'm gonna hold up. Here's the first loop we did, where it went under the previous one, and the one we're just doing where it's going over. So just alternating between this under, over, under, over, and so on for the length of your cable, you will have wrapped it up and it'll be nice and organized. So by the time you're done, I happen to just pick a kind of long cable for the sake of this demo, but by the time that you are done, you'll have a nice unit right here. And you can use the cable ties to keep them nice. I try to keep them close, but it doesn't have to be an exact science, but you don't want loops massively longer or shorter than other ones just because it's hard to manage. You don't want your loops too small because, again, the whole point of this is to avoid crimping and putting tension on the inside of the cable. The last bit is you'll know it has been done right because generally you can take one end of your cable and you can just throw the rest of the cable out and it won't tangle up. I know you can't see what it did, but it didn't tangle up there, trust me. If you don't trust me, I'll verify it right here, but you're noticing that unlike before, there are no tangles in the whole cable because it was properly wrapped. And that's it in a nutshell. Again, you just want to wrap them up over, under as you go. You'll get a lot more practice. So I recommend if you're unsure of it, let someone else see you do it. Get some feedback on that. This is a thing you just have to do enough times, and then as you've done it more and more, it just becomes kind of second nature. You kind of feel where things are going. You'll notice right now, I noticed the cable is fighting against me as I'm doing this without really looking at it, so I just stopped, went the other direction, kept the cable from fighting me, and there it is. I could hang this up on a wall, which I kind of recommend. I prefer that for organizing cables, or you could tie them up, put them in a nice little bin somewhere just to keep them nice and organized until you need it. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, definitely consider, like, comment, subscribe, all the general YouTube stuff, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a nice day.